Wagwan, Jamaica, good afternoon and welcome to Consular Conversations here on Facebook Live. This is the U.S. Embassy in Kingston, Jamaica. My name is Andrew. Joining me here today is the Immigrant Visa Chief, Kate, and the Fraud Prevention Manager, Sean. I'll introduce the two of them later, but first I want to remind you all that you can stream and listen to us live on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube, and remember to follow the U.S. Embassy at U.S. Embassy JA. Please note that during this event, we cannot answer specific questions about your individual case or application. This is a public forum and you are entitled to your privacy about your individual situation. So if you have questions about your individual case, we will tell you which email address you can email so that the respective consular unit can follow up with you. I want to remind you all that holiday travel season is coming up soon. Please do check the validity of your existing visa or your passport and make sure that you're ready to travel with your family and friends. The time will go up quickly and you want to be ready when it's time to travel either to Jamaica or elsewhere abroad. Remember that the appointments can be booked via the U.S. Embassy's website using jm.usembassy.gov, and the respective consular unit will have a link to where you can make an appointment. Specifically for minors, especially U.S. citizen minor passport holders, remember that if two parents are listed on the birth certificate of your child, both parents need to provide consent. That means they either need to come into the embassy together and sign the passport application, or the father or mother needs to submit a notarized DS-3053 consent form to get a passport here from the American Citizen Services Unit. Remember, JPs are not accepted. The only notary services here on island that are accepted are from a consular officer here at the U.S. Embassy. Before I introduce my colleagues here, I also want to remind you that hurricane season is here, and that means that you should enroll in the Smart Traveler Enrollment Program. That's step.state.gov. That is the official alerts system by which the U.S. government notifies U.S. citizens traveling abroad. So when we have an incoming hurricane and if there is some weather danger, you will receive alerts through this platform. Finally, if you are considering Jamaica as a potential travel destination, please be aware that right now the State Department has a level 3 travel advisory. The State Department does request that you reconsider travel to the island, and that is mainly due to the elevated levels of violent crime and the existing police resources that may not be able to assist you in a way that you would normally expect when traveling abroad. So here I have, as I said, the Immigrant Visa Chief, Kate, and the Fraud Prevention Manager, Sean. So Kate, welcome to Jamaica. How long have you been here?
I got here 3 weeks ago today.
So oh my goodness.
Really new, yeah.
So how are you liking it? How's Jamaica treating you?
We like it a lot. I'm here with my 2 daughters. And so it's a lot of big changes. They're going to a much bigger school. And yeah, we're just having fun exploring. We've just been in Kingston so far, but we've done a lot of exploring, all the fun stuff to do in the city. And we're hoping to venture out, maybe go to Ocho Rios this weekend, and excited to see the beaches and resorts and things.
Very nice. I think you'll love the beaches up in Ocho Rios. The entire north coast of Jamaica is absolutely beautiful. Let's hope that the weather cooperates with your plans. Yeah. Has there been any food that you've tried recently that you've enjoyed?
So we're actually vegan. So we've enjoyed going to, so the last place we lived didn't have any sort of vegetarian restaurants, none to speak of. And Kingston is full of them because of the Ital diet. Right. So we've been really excited to try all the fun vegan spots. And there's one right by us called New Leaf across the street. And they have, what are they called? The patties, but veggie version. Yeah. And we really enjoyed them, like filled with pumpkin and things like that.
Yeah, I think that's one of my favorite parts of life in Jamaica. All the different new vegetables and fruits that you encounter.
Yeah.
Before I came here, I've never seen what a breadfruit tree looks like. And seeing those fruits that are, the size of a basketball hanging from the tree, it's really quite amazing.
Yeah.
And Sean, how long have you been in Jamaica?
Well, compared to Kate, I'm a salty veteran. I've been here for 1 month, not just 3 weeks. It's been a very interesting time here so far.
Impressive. And so you are head of the fraud prevention unit, is that right?
That's right.
Could you tell me a little bit, what does your unit do?
So we are basically here to make it easier for our adjudicators to determine whether or not an applicant is telling a story that makes sense, or if the documents that they have brought to support their story are verified or not. We primarily have two audiences. One is the Jamaican traveling public. Much as you would be suspicious if you were buying a car or a house and somebody told you something that seemed too good to be true, oftentimes there are travel agents that will make guarantees based on a certain amount of payment, or if you do a particular thing or present a particular story. In that way, sometimes the innocent traveling public is victimized by people who are trying to make money through fraud. But for those who actually do have either bad intent or attempt to present fake documents or fake stories to us on purpose, we have a number of resources, personnel with many, many years, in some cases decades of experience, contacts with Jamaican law enforcement, and of course, extensive computer systems that allow us to verify these things and detect those persons that apply in bad faith.
So if somebody had a criminal record when they were, much younger than they are now, and they're applying for a visa, what would you advise that person to do when filling out their application?
I think it is safe to assume that if we're talking about a criminal record, we probably have access to that record in one way or another. And so the best, and really this is general advice for any applicant, is to always tell us the truth. When did it occur? What was it that happened? What kind of sentence or resolution occurred in the case? In that way, we found many people who may have had run-ins with the law at an earlier stage that have since graduated from college, gotten a job, traveled internationally, that are now perfectly fine travelers. But if you don't tell us or you deny that it occurred and we know that it did, then this puts us into a different category.
So it's always best to be honest on your applications. The U.S. Embassy always looks at an applicant as a whole individual, not as any particular one item that they might put on their application. Is that true?
So if we're talking about a tourist visa, the typical sort of non-immigrant visa application, the question is, does the person that wants to travel have sufficient ties to Jamaica to convince us that they're going to come back? Does the story that they are telling us make sense? Do they have adequate resources for the trip that they're telling us they want to take? Again, the number of stories is as many as grains of sand on a beach. But in any case, stories that make sense, that are supported by verifiable facts, are going to bring you closer to getting that visa to travel.
So your unit must handle all kinds of documents, both Jamaican and American, and perhaps even from third countries. Does that mean that your unit really has a background in investigating those documents and knowing which one is real or not?
Absolutely. One of the things that drew me to apply for and eventually come here was the fact that we have members of our staff that had been working specifically in fraud prevention here in Jamaica for 20 to 30 years. And so there is really nothing new under the sun. If a situation seems out of the ordinary or unusual to me, I guarantee you there are members of my staff that have seen it and know everything about it and can tell me who was involved back in the 1990s, everything.
So a wealth of knowledge, and you're here to lead them into the future. So welcome to both of you, Sean, Kate. Before we dive into the Q&A, which is the focus of this event, I do want to remind everyone that you can always email Kingston NIV at state.gov for non-immigrant visa questions, Kingston IV at state.gov for immigrant visa questions, Kingston FPU at state.gov if you have any DNA inquiries or any kind of notice that you would like to give to the U.S. Embassy regarding fraud. And you can also email us at kingstonacs at state.gov for any American Citizen Services related inquiries or submission of documents. So actually, we have a fraud related question, and not so much fraud, but which documents can be accepted. We have IE who's asking, does the embassy accept laminated civil documents in plastic?
Generally, the answer is no. One of the measures by which we can find out if a document is true or not is the quality and the weight of the paper upon which it is printed. Something that we might expect to be on heavy bond paper or some kind of official paper. If instead it's on a regular piece of printer paper, this would be one of the things that would put us on our inquiry to see if the document is verifiable or not. So laminated documents in general are not good.
Okay. So remember, if you have a document that's laminated, try to go get a replacement, because you should not be coming to your appointment to find out for the first time that your document is laminated and cannot be accepted. We have a question from Bishop who says, I have an interview in November and was asked to download the DS-260 form, but did not get an email with that document. Where can I find it?
So once your case comes to us and you're scheduled to NBC, they should have sent you instructions that include a link to submit your DS-260. Your DS-260 is your application. If you're having trouble with the instructions, you should go ahead and email kingstoniv@state.gov so we can help troubleshoot what's going on. But all the instructions should be there for submitting your DS-260, that's your application, and for collecting all the documents you need, which documents you need, as well as instructions about going to get your medical report.
Thank you, Kate. We also have another IV question coming in. Someone came to the island to take care of a family member, and they were here for a year and a half. Now, they were a permanent legal resident of the United States, so they had a green card. How can they travel to return back to the U.S.?
So when you're a green card holder, you're only allowed to stay out of America, out of the United States for 1 year. So if you're at a year and a half, then what you should do is email kingstoniv@state.gov, and we can help you set up an appointment to discuss your case. You have to meet you have to be able to explain why you weren't able to return within a year and have a credible reason for staying out, such as an illness or something. So you come and explain your situation, and then the consular officer will decide if you meet the requirements to obtain a boarding foil.
That makes sense. So in general, legal permanent residents of the United States are encouraged to return to the U.S. in order to maintain their residency within 1 year of travel abroad. Is that correct?
Yes.
Thank you, Kate. So we have Robert here who says that he and his wife applied for a consular report of birth abroad for their child. Their DNA was requested, but Robert says he needs to return to work in New York next week. What can he do to begin the DNA process?
DNA tests here at the embassy are always coordinated with what are called AABB accredited labs. Almost all of them are based in the United States, and they are quite used to working with subjects, people who have to give samples either in the United States or here on the island. So if anyone has to shift because of work or any other priority, best thing is to contact the lab, explain their travel plans, and coordinate with them how best to arrange the tests, because those tests can happen in many locations in the United States, convenient to both parties.
Okay, and they will find out once the embassy is ready to schedule an appointment with them. Is that correct?
Yes, someone from our team will contact people when it's time to come in to the embassy to get the cheek swab taken so that they can continue on with their DNA process.
Should they make sure that they have ID on them when they come in?
Absolutely. 2 forms would be best. Typically a passport and either a national ID card or a passport and a driver's license. Basically 2 forms of photo ID so that they can verify their identity so that everyone can be sure that the right test is being given to the right person.
Okay, make sure that you check your couch cushions, check your car. Don't leave the parking lot before you come into the U.S. Embassy, whether it's for your appointment, for a visa, passport, consular report abroad, or a DNA test. Make sure that you come here with an ID and ready and prepared. We now have a question from Felicia. She says that my father was filing for immigrant visa for me, but he passed away before the process was completed. What should I do if I wish to apply for a U.S. visa?
So he was applying, or he was
Petitioning for Felicia.
For Felicia as the father. Well, so unfortunately, the petition dies with the petitioner. There are instances where if the petition has been submitted, the family can work with USCIS to perhaps get a substitute petitioner. But once the petition is stuck at this point, and so they would need to contact USCIS to discuss their specific situation if the case was never approved and sent to post.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
And Felicia could contact Kingston IV at state.gov, and they could forward her to the correct USCIS
Yes.
contact.
We can give her information. She emails Kingston IV.
Thank you, Kate. Another one from IV land. We have Shanakaye, who is asking, I have my immigrant interview soon. My mother petitioned for me, but would like to add my 5-month-old to my case. Could I do so during my interview?
That would depend on the type of petition it is. So without knowing what specific kind of petition it is, I can't answer that. In some instances you can, in some you can't. If, for example, her mother is a US citizen, then it would be a no, and she would also have to petition. She could only petition for her daughter at that point, and the baby would have to be on a separate petition. In other instances, the baby can be added on. So without knowing the specifics of the case, I can't say for sure either way.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
And information like this could be found both on the U.S. Embassy website, and the Kingston IV team could point Shanakaye in the right direction if she emails kingstonIV at state.gov.
Sorry.
Oh, please, Kate, I'm sorry about that.
Go ahead.
I was going to say, Shanakaye, I'm really sorry if I'm mispronouncing your name, but you have a new IV chief here who's leading a large and efficient team, who's always looking through the mailbox to see what kind of questions come in. So please, if you have a specific question related to your petition, please email the Kingston IV team, and they will be happy to help you. Okay, so now I have a question regarding vaccines. I'll take this one. So Shanice is saying, since there are no more COVID vaccines on the island, if someone has only received 1 dose in the series, can they still be approved for an immigrant visa? And as part of the panel physician examination process, IV applicants will be required to demonstrate they're fully vaccinated against COVID-19, and in addition to other required vaccines. The panel physician is at Andrews Memorial Hospital, I believe. And so when you work through your case, please include Kingston IV in any emails that you may send, and try to pursue the full vaccination process. So now we have a question from John, who's saying, if my daughter was born abroad, but I'm a US citizen, how do I get citizenship for my daughter? So as an ACS officer, I'll go ahead and answer this one. There's a process called consular reports of birth abroad. They are akin to what a U.S. birth certificate does in the U.S., but it is issued by the State Department. John, you would need to apply through the DS 2029 form, and you would need to submit evidence of whether you were married or not at the time that your daughter was born. You would need to submit potentially evidence of physical presence in the United States prior to your daughter's birth, and you would also need to support the application with evidence of your daughter's birth certificate here in Jamaica, your citizenship documents, whether that's a U.S. passport, naturalization certificate, certificate of citizenship, or birth certificate, or any combination of those documents, as well as any documents supporting your daughter's mother's citizenship and her marriage or lack thereof to you. This is a process that takes longer than the U.S. passport application. So please remember that you will not be issued a document, most likely the same day that you come in. While it's possible, these cases do tend to require more review, and it is likely that if you don't come prepared with all the documents that are provided by the U.S. Embassy on its website, that you will receive a letter requesting additional information, which will then require you to either email or bring in those documents at a later time. Some things are unavoidable. So if during the interview there's a question of whether you have a genetic relationship to the child applying, then this case will be forwarded to Sean's team and you will be requested to submit DNA. But before you reach that stage, we do ask you to email us at Kingston Cribba, that is Kingston, C as in Charlie, R as in Robert, D as in David, A as in Apple, at state.gov. I'm sorry, C as in Charlie, R as in Robert, B as in boy, A as in Apple, at state.gov. Thank you. We now have a question from Rob. How long are police certificates valid for?
In general, they are valid for the application that you are bringing to us. As far as whether or not a certificate needs to be repeated before a second application, for example, for some reason in April of a given year, you have an application that was denied for some reason, and then you reapply in June or July. In that case, you would want to go ahead, if you can, to go ahead and get another police certificate. It is not required, but it is recommended only because an interviewing officer might have a question about anything that might have occurred between the last time you obtained such a certificate and the day that you're interviewing.
That makes sense. And Kate, how does this factor into the IV process?
Right. For immigrant visa purposes, it just has to be 2 years or less, 2 years old, less than 2 years old.
And any IV applicant over the age of 16 needs to submit a police certificate. Yes. Is that correct?
Yes.
Does that even apply for those who have never done anything and wouldn't have a police record?
Yeah, for everyone.
Okay.
Yeah, and including if the person is an adult who's lived in another country, a third country at any point for more than 6 months, they'll need to bring a police certificate for those countries as well.
All right. Thank you very much. And so does the IV team do anything to obtain those certificates, or is that the responsibility of the applicant?
Right. So it's the responsibility of the applicant. When the applicant gets his or her instructions, it will be on there. A list of the needed civil documents and police certificate and so forth will be on there, and then it'll be up to the applicant to collect them all.
Got it. We have a question from Jeanette asking, how much is a visa fee? Well, there's many different kinds of visas out there, whether it's employment related or educational. We have student visas, we have fiance visas, but Most likely, Jeanette is talking about the most common visa, which is a B1, B2 tourist business visa. And right now, the fee for that is $185. This is a good moment for me to remind those that have already paid the fee prior to October of last year that you now have 10 days remaining to schedule your visa appointment before the fee that you paid is no longer valid. For those that are just paying the fee now, remember that the validity of your fee payment is 1 year. And so you have up to that amount of time to schedule your appointment after you've paid for your B1, B2 visa. Now we have a question from My Dream. For a K1 visa, when should I complete the DS-160? How long does it take from the moment you are approved by NVC to get the interview appointment?
So you should complete the DS-160 as soon as possible. So that's just, you can do that at any point, but before obviously you come in for the interview. With Ks, they're different than any other sort of immigrant visa class in that you have to schedule the appointment yourself. So once the petition, once your case comes to Embassy Kingston, we will send you an email with all the instructions, including a link for where to schedule your appointment. And you can schedule it. We have appointments open all the way up to the end of the year.
Okay, excellent. We also have a question from Samantha, who says that she has a cousin who traveled to a resort recently here in Jamaica, and they lost their green card. The cousin is staying right now with Samantha, but what should this cousin do if they want to travel back to the United States?
So her cousin should email kingston.iv@state.gov to inquire about getting an appointment to come in to obtain a boarding foil to return.
That makes sense. We also have a question related to travel to resorts and if there's any particular one that the U.S. Embassy recommends. Unfortunately, the U.S. Embassy is not in the business of giving advice on specific travel plans or itineraries. We do recommend that you speak to a travel agent if that's the case. However, you can visit travel.state.gov. And I will remind those listening now, if you were not tuned in when we started, there is currently a level 3 travel advisory where the State Department does ask that you reconsider travel to the island of Jamaica. There's many wonderful tourist opportunities here on the island, but unfortunately the current level of crime makes it such that it is not advisable for personal safety to be traveling right now to Jamaica. We have a few more questions, but I am mindful of time as we are scheduled to wrap up in 2 minutes. So I will ask one more right now, and that is for DNA testing. Is it the visa unit or the American Citizen Services unit that needs to be contacted directly to schedule the appointment, or is there another place people can go to reach out to schedule an appointment?
So the ACS unit and the visa units are those that sort of generate these appointments, but as far as setting them up, scheduling, making sure that all of that goes smoothly, it is Kingston FPU at state.gov. That is the best point of contact. Of course, some of our clients do reach out to visa units or the ACS unit with regards to those things, but those messages are forwarded on to us and we will establish contact that way. The most direct way is Kingston FPU at state.gov.
Thank you, Sean. And I'll remind those that received a DNA letter from the American Citizen Services Unit. You are also given a link where if you are in the United States, that link will allow you to schedule a DNA test in a approved lab back in the United States. I do want to thank my colleagues, Sean and Kate, for joining us here today. This was very informative. It's a pleasure to have you both here on the island and here working at the mission with us. We hope that you have a pleasant time during your tours here in Jamaica. There's much to explore, and next time, not when we have our next conversation, October 18th, but perhaps in a few months, would love to hear your feedback and what your latest favorite food on the island here is.
Sounds great.
Thank you. That's all for today. Please do remember that you can follow us at US Embassy JA at Twitter and Facebook. And remember that this stream can be found on YouTube, Twitter, and Facebook Live. Thank you again, Jamaica, and we look forward to speaking with you again at the regular time on October 18th.